offensive against Islamist Al-Shabaab fighters who control large swathes of the country and the capital Mogadishu. A large proportion of those killed are believed to be from Burundi, one of two countries which provides the bulk of soldiers there. A national period of mourning has been announced in Nepal. The two-time former Prime Minister Krishna Prasad Bhattacharya has died at the age of 87. He led a popular movement to restore multi-party democracy twice in the 1990s. He'll be cremated on Sunday. Those were the headlines. The news continues here on Al Jazeera after Inside Story with Sami Zaidan. Stay tuned.
His forces move on revolutionaries while the International Criminal Court moves to investigate him. Is ICC involvement an incentive for the Libyan leader to respect human rights or to fight for survival to avoid prosecution? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Sami Zaidan. Well, protests in Libya continue to be met with harsh violence. The death toll, well, it's now topped 1,000. And the International Criminal Court is warning Colonel Gaddafi he'll be held criminally responsible for his regime's reaction to protesters since February the 15th. Alan Fisher has more.
The Office of the Prosecutor decided to open an investigation into alleged crimes against humanity committed in Libya.
Holding the Gaddafi regime to account, the International Criminal Court is now officially investigating all that has gone on over the past days and weeks. Hundreds have been killed in the uprising against the 40-year rule of Colonel Gaddafi, thousands injured. The chief prosecutor believes crimes against humanity have been committed.
The office will investigate who are the most responsible for the most serious incidents, for the most serious crimes committed in Libya.
This is just another step by the international community to put pressure on Colonel Gaddafi and Libya. The prosecutor believes his investigation can be complete in months, not years. He will then present his evidence to the judges who'll decide if arrest warrants should be issued. And he sent a warning to the rebel groups. We're watching you too. The United Nations Security Council referred Libya to the ICC. The chief prosecutor believes there is enough evidence to dig deeper. He's highlighted several incidents and allegations of mass killings. The 15th of February in Benghazi, the 16th of February in Misrata, Al-Baida, Derna, Ajdabaya. On the 18th, again in Misrata, and the 20th in Tripoli and Al-Zawaya. Speaking to Al Jazeera, he highlighted what is under investigation.
Crime against humanity is a widespread attack against civilian population. So if you have security forces shooting civilians in a square who are doing a demonstration, this is a crime against, this could be a crime against humanity.
The prosecutor believes the rapid call to investigate marks a dramatic change, that the world will act quickly when people are being killed, and those behind it will face justice. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, the ICC in The Hague.
Well, let's join our three guests now to get more on this. From London, Mohammed Abdul Malik. He's the chairman of Libya Watch. That's a human rights organisation that monitors and collects evidence of human rights abuses in Libya. From Oxford, Sami Hermes, a visiting fellow at St Anthony's College at Oxford University. Mr Hermes writes extensively on revolutions across the Arab world and the impact of international intervention. And again from London, Mark Ellis, Executive Director of the International Bar Association. Mr Ellis comments regularly on international prosecution cases such as the ICC. Thank you all for joining us. If I could start with Mohammed, what sort of evidence of human rights abuses is there at this point?
Well, we don't even need to look on the 16th and 15th and 16th and 17th and after that of February. We can even go back to 1996 when Colonel Gaddafi massacred and killed 1,200 political prisoners in prison in the infamous Abu Slim massacre, which the world seems to have ignored. The brutality of Colonel Gaddafi and his regime doesn't need evidence, really, but I do understand.
But the ICC, sir, does, doesn't it? Of course, the ICC does need evidence, and they've said that they're looking at a specific number of cases. What sort of evidence is there for those cases that they might be looking at?
Well, there is the use of high-caliber bullets, anti-aircraft machine guns were used against citizens who were demonstrating peacefully. And actually, they ripped through the bodies of many citizens, and this is well documented. The doctors in hospitals have spoken of the horrors. The pictures on the internet speak of these horrors. The use of excessive force, too much excessive force, the use of bombing, shelling against, pure, simple demonstrators. Once this is over, there will be plenty of evidence for the ICC to look into.
Right.
My only worry is that the ICC will be spending too much time collecting evidence that is going to go on for months.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. If I could just continue with the point you mentioned of evidence and go over to Mark. How easy will it be to link Gaddafi to the awful pictures that we're seeing, to some of the evidence that Mohammed was talking about there?
Well, two things, and I think we need to make certain that it's clear that this investigation, the ICC's jurisdiction, is only focused on what occurred from February 15th. That's the jurisdiction that the court has based on the referral from the ICC. So, unfortunately, any atrocities that were committed prior to that date will just simply not be dealt with by this particular court. The connection to Gaddafi or any leader is based on command responsibility. Did Gaddafi know, or should he have known, that the atrocities were being committed and he did nothing to stop them? If that's the case, then there is a connection to Mr. Gaddafi, and he could be held liable for those crimes.
Well,
And
his sons
let us
seem to
also
be, some of
remember
his
that-
sons seem to be responsible for some of the security units. Does that strengthen the case against him?
Oh, absolutely, and that's more direct, kind of what we refer to as direct responsibility. Those that are in charge and that have actually, there's evidence suggesting that they actually made decisions to commit these crimes. And the court, remember, the prosecutor right now is only looking at being able to show that there's a reasonable basis to believe that these crimes were committed. That's a fairly low standard of proof right now, but that's what he's focusing on, so I suspect he'll be able to easily show that. It will be more difficult once you get into a trial phase, but right now we're simply looking at evidence that would suggest a reasonable basis to believe that these crimes were being committed, and it seems to me that that evidence is there.
Interesting point there on the phases, as you put it. Let's go over to the other Sami in this show. This is going to be several phases or stages. How effective will it then be if it's intended to kind of discourage any more human rights abuses?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question, because the trials and the investigations are an ongoing thing. So the question is, what is it going to do in the short term? And this is where I think the ICC referral may not be as effective. It's